Well, good morning and welcome to the Mrs. R Relevant Daily Draft Podcast sponsored by the Draft Professors. I am joined with Tyler. Tyler, it is great to see you again this week. How are things up further north?
Well, they're really cold. We had the massive winter storm roll through. So Champaign, Illinois, where I'm at, we got, I think it was either 6 or 7 inches of snow. And so they're still dealing with that. Temperatures, the real feel has been minus 23 at multiple times this week. So we're fighting through that. I got a little bit of a cold, but nothing excites me more than doing stuff like this, getting some mock drafts out there. So I'm fighting through it, got my caffeine and ready to do what we need to do.
Yeah, so while like negative 23, like I could go outside in a bathing suit. Like we got snow outside in Ohio, but it's not negative 23 cold. So
it's been a battle to go outside every day.
Okay. So we're doing this Saturday morning. It's Senior Bowl is going to be played a little bit later on today. Tyler is going to come on and do some Bears mocks, and this is going to be a treat. Tyler hasn't had a lot of time on the Draft Professor Simulator, so we get to talk about that. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to do a Chicago Bears first round challenge. So a first round fanatic challenge is 5 unique one-round drafts. Tyler, what do you think would be like the summary statement for what the Bears want to do in round 1?
Oh, I am so glad you asked. It is defense, right? Because this defense, if you look by pretty much any metric, if you're looking at EPA per play, success rate, just yards given up, any stat, they are bottom 10, and a lot of them, they're bottom 5. Especially pressure rate is one that I really looked at throughout the season. They just could not get pressure with 4. They don't have the guys to win one-on-one. So that is where you're looking at defensive line. You're looking at edge. They were 6th lowest in the league last year in pressure rate. But it's not just D-line. I didn't like the linebacker play through most of this year. A lot of their DBs are free agents, including guys like Kevin Byard, Jaquan Brisker, so especially safeties. But even at corner, there's a spot opposite Jalen Johnson. So I'm telling you so many things, right? But the big takeaway is they need defensive players. They hit on a bunch of offensive players in last year's draft, a really, really good draft, possibly the best in 2025. I think it's like them, the Browns, and a couple other people vying for that spot. But it was really offense. It was Colston Loveland. It was Luther Burden, Ozzie Trapillo, like those type of guys, even Kyle Monungai in the 7th round. So, hey, you got your guy at quarterback. You got a lot of your offensive line figured out. Not completely. We'll get into that. And you got an offensive play caller, you've got to make sure this defense is not going to be a bottom 5 or bottom 10 unit going forward.
Okay, so I loved that executive summary. I'll go through what the first 25 picks were for you. Mendoza, Bain, Reese, Tate, Maui, Noah going top 5. Fano, Bailey, Tyson, Downs, Styles going top 10.
Yep.
Delane, Falk, Lomu, Lemon, Parker, Woods, Proctor, Love, Sadiq, Allen, Boston, Ione, Terrell, Simpson.
Hey, Browns get their quarterback.
Yeah, so other than Ty Simpson going at 24, the rest of that to me seemed relatively normal.
Yeah, I didn't see anything where I go, whoa. So I think I'm there with you.
Yep. And for users that don't know, if this is your first time seeing Draft Professor, this simulator is completely interactive. So if you look at who's available at the top of the Bears board, it's Caleb Banks, Caden McDonald, Cassius Howell, Anthony Hill, Jermod McCoy, all defensive players. They get there on this simulator because somebody came in and did a Bears mock and picked them. That's how they get there.
Interesting.
So
okay.
We're going to see that board move when Tyler is done with this podcast. But Tyler, if the draft falls this way, who is BPA for you?
Man, I think this is the perfect scenario if you're the Bears, because the top 2 guys that I have and I'm looking for is Caleb Banks and Caden McDonald and also Lee Hunter. Those are like the top 3 of guys that I would take for the Bears in the first round. I think especially Banks fits a lot of what they need because they allowed 5 yards per carry last year. You do not have to be a football savant to know that's not very good. And then I already talked about the pressure rate, right? 6th lowest in the league. Caleb Banks destroyed the Senior Bowl. And it was so important for him because, again, Florida fan, I feel like I'm wearing Florida Gators merch every single time we hop on the pod. But he had an amazing season in 2024. He really came into his own. He was an unknown 3-star transfer from Louisville, no hype behind him, and just developed into a really good guy. Unfortunately, in this offseason, broke his foot or was in a boot for his foot, came back against LSU, re-injured it, got surgery, missed the rest of the year. And so you're like, okay, well, this is a guy who was mocked first round coming into the year. I have half a game of tape on him for 2025. What do I do with that? So Senior Bowl is really important. He goes out and destroys it. This is not a perfect prospect by any means, but Jim, 6'6", 330 should not move the way he moves. It is unreal to watch. He looks like almost, I compared him to a circus bear. Like, those bears will hop on balls and like be able to be real nimble and move around. Because you look at that, and that's the whole circus performance is, hey, bears aren't supposed to move like that. Well, guys like Caleb Banks aren't supposed to move the way he does. Needs to fix his pad level a little bit. Still needs to, I just think, get back into playing football, right? He only played one game again. But there is so much good there that if he is falling to the Bears at 25 here, I just don't see how you don't take him.
Okay. So I picked Caleb Banks for the Bears in that first mock. The simulator immediately starts its second mock, but this time Caleb Banks got sniped 4 picks before the Bears were on the clock.
Yep.
Caleb Banks is off the board. What do you do, Tyler?
Well, and this is where I'm trying to scroll just to make sure that I can find good old Lee Hunter here. Because just getting into my process completely, before the Senior Bowl week, I was falling in love with Lee Hunter, but I saw that consensus-wise, he was about in the range for the Bears' second-round pick. And so I was thinking, oh, man, maybe you can get a little cute and grab a linebacker or a DB and then get your defensive lineman that might be as good coming around. That is not going to happen after this Senior Bowl week, right? Everyone was introduced to Lee Hunter. He's another guy at 330 pounds where insanely quick. The lateral quickness is crazy, really long arms, not quite as long as Banks, but a guy that destroyed the Big 12 for Texas Tech. And then no offense to the Big 12, if there's any Big 12 fans in here, but you were going, okay, the talent there is not as good as some of the Big 10 or the SEC schools. Is he going to be able to hold up? And he had his best game of the year against Oregon. So I think most people here would go Caden McDonald. I am going to lean Lee Hunter for that pass rush ability that I talked about earlier and the need the Bears have for that. So they're going to be really, really close on my first big board. Like when I release the top 50, they're probably going to be right next to each other or within, 3 to 5 players. I think the pass rush juice for Hunter, though, just tips it a little bit for the Bears specifically.
And I think that's a good point. So I'm going to make a couple of observations. So Lee Hunter is currently 36th on the board. Okay, so I said that the simulator is interactive. We're going to pick Lee Hunter here. He won't be 36 when the exercise is done. He's going to move up. Anybody you pick moves up. Anybody you skipped, so the 12 players that were ranked higher than him are going to move down a little bit. In addition to that, with the whole Lee Hunter, Caden McDonald thing, Lee Hunter probably has more upside, whereas Caden McDonald, you know what you're getting.
Yes.
Right. And I would say the floor may be higher for McDonald, but the ceiling is definitely higher for Hunter.
For sure, because McDonald, really, really good player. Guys don't move him one-on-one. And then people even struggle to move him with double teams, right? He is going to be able to hold down gaps. He is good at getting off blocks in the run game. The one thing is he has just not shown any pass rush potential. I was even looking back at him compared to Tyleik Williams. Tyleik Williams, who the knock was, hey, not a great pass rusher. He had 7.1% pass rush win rate according to PFF. And McDonald is at 4%. So this is a guy who you are going to have on the first 2 downs and take out, which is so valuable. And again, I'm probably going to take him by the end of these 5 picks because the Bears need a run stopper. But again, when they have both the run and the pass issue, I think that's where you might lean towards a guy who can bring that higher ceiling like you're talking about.
Okay. So you've taken Caleb Banks and Lee Hunter. The simulator starts the 3rd mock. Again, we're doing a first round challenge, which is 5 unique 1-round mocks. The simulator has sniped Caleb Banks and Lee Hunter. In this mock, TJ Parker and CJ Allen dropped. I do not think they were available the first 2 times we did this.
They were not, no. So that is what it was really interesting as I'm looking right here. And especially because if you know anything about the just Bears front office and then also Dennis Allen as a defensive coordinator, they love their big edges. Montez Sweat is 268. Austin Booker put on weight. I'm forgetting the guy that they signed in the offseason, but he was 265, right? They love these real heavy set edges. And so that's why I think TJ Parker would be intriguing here.
So TJ Parker is the BPA for you in this situation over McDonald and Allen and others?
I think so. And I really liked what he did at the Senior Bowl. I would have questions and I would be really in the meetings going, hey, this Clemson season was not very good. It's the same thing for Peter Woods. And you guys, I don't think lived up to your potential. What's behind that? That would be my one concern. But I think just as a player, not going to win with a ton of speed, but man, does he have power. And he works off of his power well enough where he's not just a bull rusher.
Okay, so the simulator starts a fourth mock, and you're going to begin to see a theme. Caleb Banks, Lee Hunter, TJ Parker, all sniped before the Bears pick at 25. What do the Bears do if Banks, Hunter, and Parker are off the board?
Yeah, as I'm scrolling here, I'm looking, and I think this is where I probably just take Caden McDonald, right? Again, like I said, very, very good player, meets a big need. I know Jacob Infante, who you said you've had on this podcast a lot, that's the guy he's been banging the drum for in terms of the Bears taking him there. I think it's a perfect fit. I think it's a perfect range for him. He's going to be somewhere in the 20s for me when I do my big board. And so don't overthink it. Just get a really, really good player. Andrew Billings, also their nose tackle, is a free agent this year. So boom, plug and play and fill a spot there for the Bears.
Okay, so now we're in the fifth and final mock of the first round challenge. Banks, Hunter, Parker, McDonald, all sniped before the Bears are on the clock at 25. What are your thoughts?
So this is where I'm going to go a little bit. I like CJ Allen, and I had him on my list in terms of first round picks. Like I said, I really didn't like the Bears linebacker play with Edmonds, and now I'm spacing on the other guy's name because it's the same. It's like Edmonds and Edwards. There we go, Edmonds, Edwards. And Edmonds hurt his knee pretty bad in the playoff game. And so I didn't see the reports yet, but he is probably going to be out next year. So CJ Allen is a perfectly fine pick, but I'm going to take this opportunity to go to the one position that I think would justify not drafting defense, and that's offensive line. Ozzie Trapillo, as much as I liked how he played this year, he tore his patella tendon, and that is a nasty injury. You don't know how that's going to go and how that's going to heal. It's just it's a weird ligament to recover from what I've been told. I'm not a doctor, but it's a little more difficult than, I guess, your standard ACL, MCL, PCL, that kind of thing. And so Joe Thuney had to kick out in the Rams playoff game to play left tackle. He held up admirably, but we saw the Chiefs-Eagles Super Bowl. You don't want him playing there long term. He is a left guard. He is an all-pro left guard. He's a fine tackle, but you want him to play his position where he's going to be one of, if not the best in the league. And so I say all that to say, hey, I think you could easily take a tackle here. I'm seeing Proctor. I'm not a huge Proctor guy. I think he is way too heavy right now. I don't like how he moves. I don't like his technique. So that brings me to Max Ian Achor. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Do you have the pronunciation there?
I think you're close.
Okay.
And yeah, so Max from Arizona State, he stifled Dave. Well, okay, stifled is the wrong adjective. He had some of the best tape against David Bailey and Romello Height. Like, he actually held up better than the Utah tackles, which are probably going to be drafted higher.
Totally agree. I think while it wasn't perfect, he showed a lot of great things. Everyone has said it, but I will say it too. He just started playing football in college. He was at East LA Community College. That was featured on Last Chance U for basketball, actually. But JUCO school, you can see all of the basketball / soccer background. You can see how athletic he is. And so I think he only gets better from here. I'm going to take him. I think also Monroe Freeling is in this range where if somebody preferred him over Max, totally understand that. But I think I would lean towards the Arizona State tackle.
Okay. So the 5 players you took were Caleb Banks, Lee Hunter, TJ Parker, Caden McDonald, and Max Ihinachor.
There we go. Nailed it.
Yep. So a couple things on the grades. So the entire grading at Draft Professor is groupthink. So A plus means you agreed with the prior mock drafters for the Bears, right? Because they were the top player on the draft card. An A is players 2 through 8. A B would be players 9 through 16. So it's all about where they are on the draft card at the moment that you pick them, kind of thing. So that's what the grading is. So the reason that I point that out is we're going to go a little bit deeper into the Bears draft on this one. We're going to do 5-round Bears drafts. And we're going to turn on this option called Fanatic Mode, and I'm bumping this up to 8. Okay. So this means we're going to do 8 unique Bears drafts, 5 rounds each. Tyler and I spoke before the podcast. We're confident that the Bears don't have a 4th-round pick. So that way we're at least going to get into day 3. So when I do Fanatic Mode on the podcast, I like to get people's perspectives on day 3. We believe that Tyler's going to be making 5 picks per mock. So this will take a little bit longer than the first round challenge. But it'll be fun. So like Tyler, by the time you get to like the 6th, 7th, and 8th mock, you're going to be in fantasy land because you're going to see some players drop or some players off the board that you probably don't typically say. Like, right. And what I mean by that is that if I asked, 4 people to do a Bears mock, I bet a lot of the players are going to be the same or the positions will be the same. But by the time you get to the point where you've got to do 8 and they're different, we're going to be off the rails probably in mock 6, 7, and 8. So
I love it.
We'll go ahead and start the draft. The first round on this simulator is moderately predictable in a short amount of time. And what I mean by that is the simulator is interactive. So the probability that somebody is doing mock drafts at 10:30 a.m. on a Saturday morning is really low. So the first round right now is probably the same as it was before, but these can change on an instant if there's other users on the simulator at the same time. So Mendoza, Bain, Reese, Tate, Maui, Noah, Fano, Bailey, Tyson, Downs, Styles, Delane, Falk, Lomu, Lemon, Parker, Woods, Proctor, Love, Sadiq, Allen, Boston, Ione, Terrell, Simpson. Is this Caleb Banks again?
This would be Caleb Banks, right? Just it pretty much fell, I think, exactly how it did the first time. And so not going to overthink it. Get a really good defensive lineman in round 1.
Okay. So you go Caleb Banks in round 1. What are you thinking in round 2 here?
I have Caden McDonald still open, which, wow, interesting that I might have done this wrong, actually. It's got me on round 1, iteration 2.
Yeah, so you may have not bumped the number of rounds.
I was going to say, I think I didn't do that correctly. So I was going to say, I was like, how?
Oh, so you're trying to do it on your computer the same time I'm doing it here.
I was going to say, I'm trying to keep up with it myself.
If you need to reset what you've done and catch up, go for it.
All right, let me go ahead and do that real quick. But as I'm doing that, I can talk again about Caleb Banks. I think, like I said, the one thing's the pad level, and you did see that. There's a highlight going around on Twitter where Austin Barber, left tackle for Florida, and then one of the offensive guards, he is getting tossed out of the club of the B gap because while 6'6", 330 is really cool, he looks, really impressive. It's hard to get leverage, and leverage is one of the most important things on the defensive line. But I will say you do see that in spurts, right? It's not that he never does it. It's just when you're that big, you get tired, and when you get tired, you stand up. And so I think he can absolutely wreck defenses, both with the penetration he brings, and he even does hold the point of attack, I think, better than a normal 6'6" guy would do. As I come here, okay, perfect. So we'll take Caleb Banks. I believe I did this right.
Yes, you want to make sure Fanatic Mode was set to 8, and you want to make sure that the round count was set to 5, and you'll be able to probably mirror nearly every pick. And that also means that if you're doing the same mocks on your computer as we're doing here, the cool thing is that's actually twice as many Bears mocks.
Oh, so nice.
Players are going to move up even more.
There we go.
There you go.
I get to game the system a little bit here.
We do. Hey, and I'm all for, like, I want to find people to do a lot of mock drafts. Those are my best friends. I don't care what team. The simulator is designed to have people mock drafting against each other. So it's not based upon what your board is for 32 teams or what my board is for 32 teams.
Right.
Everything we're doing here is Bears specific.
I love it. I love it.
So,
all right.
So what are your thoughts if we do Caleb Banks in round 1? What do you think the Bears would do in round 2?
Man, I'm looking at it now, and Lee Hunter is sitting there, and I already talked about how much I love Lee Hunter. I do wonder, though, do you go back-to-back defensive linemen, especially when Jervon Dexter has been serviceable for the Bears?
Yeah. And the other thing that I'll comment is take a player where you value him. So if you, like, when we do this, okay, so Hunter's there, but we're probably taking him in the first round next time. If we take him in round 2 here, we won't be able to take him in round 1 next time.
Right. So let me see this. Okay, then this is perfect. I'm glad you said that, because we're going to fit right into where I live right here, and we're just going to go ahead and take Gabe Akis, edge out of Illinois. And this is a guy, super physical. He is that prototype that I talked about that the Bears really, really love in terms of the bigger edges, right? Run stopper, a lot of power, good hand usage. I saw you using the Tristan fun fact, if you want to go ahead and talk about that.
Yes. Oh, yeah. So Gabe Akis uses the same Taekwondo coach as Lawrence Taylor. And I learned that from your colleague, Tristan Thomas, who has came and podcasted on this channel several times. He is the gentleman that referred me to you. So, yeah, shout out to Tristan. So thank you, Tristan.
Yes, he is tapped in there.
Yeah, so we're now at the Bears pick for 89. So if you go Caleb Banks and Gabe Akis in rounds 1 and 2, what do you think the Bears are looking for at pick 89 here?
I do think this is where you start to look DB. You're taking care of some D-line needs, but as I said before, you got 3 different safeties that are all free agents. There's already been rumors that Jaquan Brisker is not going to be re-signed. Kevin Byard, even if you do re-sign him, he is getting up there in age. I think he's 32, but going to be 33 when the season starts. So that's where I'm looking and saying, hey, we have to find somebody to try and replace there. Another big Senior Bowl riser, Bud Clark out of TCU, a guy who just makes so many plays on the ball and is always around the ball. That's what you want in a safety, right? You want a guy that's going to be able to get to the right spot and either break it up or make a good tackle. Was doing that all week in the Senior Bowl, but more importantly, did it all season for a very solid TCU defense. So love Bud Clark going in. He completely underscored everything I thought about him at the Senior Bowl. So we're going to take him there to the Bears.
Okay, so now so there is a round 4 compensatory pick for the Bears.
Oh, here we go.
So we're going to be making a pick in round 4. And we're going to be making 1 pick in round 5 as well.
And I wondered, they just lost a front office guy, so I wonder if they did end up getting a comp pick from that.
Yeah, and I'll just give a shout out to the people at Tankathon. I get my draft order from Tankathon. So if the draft order there is less correct, it will eventually be updated. But my source for the draft order right now is Tankathon. So.
Well, and they do that a lot more than I do in terms of falling picks. So I am going to trust them.
Yeah. So Bears on the clock in round 4. You've gone completely defense. Banks, Akis, Clark. Are you still hedging offensive line?
That's where I've been scrolling to see what kind of offensive linemen are available in this area of the draft. And this is where right now, at least on the mock draft, it's looking at Alex Harkey, not one of my guys. Bo Stevens on the interior, solid. But like I said, they need more tackle help than they do interior help at this point. Markel Bell is an interesting guy that might kick out. And at 6'9", 360, he is a massive, massive human being. Trey Zune played tackle at Texas A&M, but it looks like he's probably going to be kicked down to center for the NFL. So now I'm just like scrolling and seeing what kind of tackles are left. And I think what we're learning from this mock draft is if the Bears don't get a tackle either in free agency or at the beginning of the draft, it might look a little bleak here if you get to this part.
And then my other advice is you don't ever get good tackles in free agency.
Yeah,
There
right,
is no
exactly.
such thing. You have to grow. You have to grow your own tackle.
Which is why that Trapillo injury is just it's so debilitating. It's because he was playing well and he was going to be that homegrown guy, right? I think he was second round pick 57. Like this is a guy who you put a pretty premium pick into, looked like he was turning out to be not a world beater, but a solid player in his first year. And now you just are not able to make it happen. So really, I was going to try and force an offensive line pick there, but there's just no guys that I really want to take. So now I'm going across the board to Aiden Fisher. I talked about the linebacker play. And so we're going to stick with the defensive theme here. A guy who just almost never misses his run fits. It's impressive how dialed in he is to the defense. A really sure tackler, the communicator for that Indiana defense that was one of, if not the best in the country. And I think that's exactly what the Bears could use, again, to fill into that injured spot in their linebacker room.
Okay, and then we go to the round 5 pick. So we got Caleb Banks, Gabe Ackus, Bud Clark, Aiden Fisher, all levels of the defense. What are your thoughts for what you would be looking for here in round 5?
So here's where we get to round 5, and this is maybe just me getting into how I would draft if I ever became a GM. When I get to round 5, this is where it just purely becomes like, it's not as much need as I'm just looking for players that I really like in this part of the draft, just because these are dart throws. And so I'm not super, I shouldn't be trying to plug a big hole in my roster with my 5th round pick.
Yep.
If it does, that's awesome. But I'm just not really going to count on that. So I have to pull up the offensive tackle and offensive line area here. I think this is where I would start getting more comfortable with taking a center, even though I have Drew Dahlman. Thuney is older. Jonah Jackson was a bit up and down this year at guard for the Bears. And so I am going to take, so I scroll here. I'm really trying to decide. This is how I'll walk you through my thought process here. Trazen and Pat Coogan, I like the most of the interior offensive linemen in this area of the draft. It's just whether they're going to be able to play guard or not. And so, because Drew Dahlman, they signed a 4-year big free agency contract last year. He is going to be the center going forward. You're not going to replace him unless of injury. But I think I'm willing to take Pat Coogan and say that he can play guard. And so we're going to make that pick there. And then you have some insurance as well if Dahlman were to get hurt.
Okay, so Caleb Banks, Gabe Ackus, Bud Clark, Aiden Fisher, Pat Coogan that was the first mock. The simulator immediately puts us into the second mock, and it conveniently snipes Caleb Banks 7 picks before the Bears are on the clock. And if memory serves me correctly, you like Lee Hunter.
I do, yes. I'm trying to scroll over and find him here. It looks like, he's just hidden behind that second page.
Should be at the top of the second page.
There we go. So
when we picked Lee Hunter the first time, he was 36th. He's already moved up to 29th, and he's going to move up again if we're going to pick Lee Hunter here, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so he's moving up. And if I'm picking him and Tyler's picking him, he's actually being picked twice, not once.
We're choosing the numbers over here.
Yep. So, okay, so we go Lee Hunter, round 1. What are you going to look for in round 2? And as an FYI, Gabe Ackus was sniped 7 picks before the Bears were on the clock.
Yeah, so what did I learn in the last mock draft? When you get a little deeper into this class, not a ton of tackles. And so I'm not going to make that mistake again. I'm going to go ahead and take Austin Barber, offensive tackle out of Florida. I think this is a guy who's very technically sound, coached up really well, has some good athleticism. Would love to see him put on a little bit of strength, add to that core strength to be able to really anchor down and hold up against bull rushes, things like that. But there's a lot to build on there, and I think he fits the Bears scheme very well.
Okay, and now we're back to pick 89. And again, the simulator conveniently snipes Bud Clark 7 picks before you're on the clock.
It knows what to take from me, Jim. It's making it hard on me on purpose. Let's see here.
If you think it's hard on the second one, wait till we get to the 6th, 7th, and 8th.
No, we'll be okay, because this is actually a guy that I really did want to talk about. Is Daryl Jackson Jr. from Florida State. He did both the Senior and Shrine Bowl, if I'm not mistaken. An absolutely massive human being. He's got 35-inch arms as well. Just the prototypical, you're going to sit him in the middle of your defense, and he is going to take up space and be a very good run defender. So if I'm not going to be completely taking care of that with round 1 picks, I really do still want to add to my defensive line and make a guy like Jervon Dexter a situational pass rusher for the Bears. I think that's the role that he really fits best in, and just attacking a weakness on my defense.
Okay. So Lee Hunter, Austin Barber, Darrell Jackson Jr., rounds 1 through 3. What would you do in round 4? You haven't addressed safety, linebacker, or possibly edge.
Yeah. So as I'm looking right here at what's available, I'm thinking about going DB. I talked about earlier how the safeties is a big point of need, but also corner, because Jalen Johnson's there. Nashawn Wright was a revelation off the practice squad, a guy who forced 5 interceptions. That's second most of, or it's tied for first most of corners actually in the NFL with J.C. Horn. 2 forced fumbles. He's a ball hawk, but he's not a great down-to-down defender. Like, he let up, I think it was the 11th most catches in the NFL this year. So it's really boom or bust. I would like to fill that spot with somebody who's not quite as boom or bust. And I'm going to go with Malik Muhammad from Texas, a guy who didn't have as great a year this year as I thought he could have. He started as a true freshman for Texas, and he, after that season, was thought to be a guy who could be a first rounder when he came out. But I'm going to believe in that potential, and he showed some good things at the Senior Bowl, I think, as well.
Okay, so Lee Hunter, Austin Barber, Darrell Jackson Jr., Malik Muhammad, you're on the clock in round 5. And Max Llewellyn and Jayshon Barham are screaming at you from the top of the draft card. Anybody else that you think would be a better player than those 2 edges?
As I scroll, no, that's exactly where my eyes were drawn to, and I haven't taken an edge in this mock yet as well, so I think that just fits pretty well. And if I'm the Bears, again, they like those bigger guys, so they, I think, would go with Llewellyn instead of Barham and try and really get just massive guys on the line of scrimmage.
Okay, love it. So we are beginning to cook with gas using fanatic mode on the Draft Professor Simulator. So Tyler is going to be doing 8 consecutive Bears mocks. They'll all be unique. He has completed 2 of them. For the third one, Caleb Banks and Lee Hunter have been sniped from you, and you're on the clock at pick 25.
Yes, we are trying to make sure there's not any guys that I'm missing on that second page that really are standing out to me.
Yeah, so like the last time, I think you grabbed TJ Parker, but he didn't fall on this.
Right, exactly. And so I think I might just go ahead and not do anything crazy and take Caden McDonald. Monroe Freeling, I think, and Max, as we talked about before, are options, but I think I might save those as we go forward. So just going to do easy Caden McDonald and plug up that middle as we've been talking about.
Yep. And then my advice would be pick the players as to who you think is more likely. So like if you think, in this case, we picked McDonald, but if you think McDonald is more likely than Max or more likely than insert other player here,
right,
pick them in the order, because it'll eventually, especially if you and I are both doing it, the Bears board on the simulator is going to kind of mimic your logic.
Yeah. No, totally with you there.
So we're in round 2. In round 2, Akis and Barber are sniped before the Bears pick. Trotter is there. He wasn't there before.
Yeah, I'm going to go and do that offensive line thing in this second round that I did last time, though. And this one, he's a little low, I guess, in the ranking than I thought. I had to scroll farther than I thought, but that's Blake Miller, offensive tackle for Clemson. I think, honestly, a lot of the scouting report is similar to Barber in terms of very good athlete, long rangy, needs to add some strength, but I think that is a guy that you can mold and try and plug that Ozzie Trapillo-sized hole that the Bears are most likely going to have for this season.
Okay, so we go Caden McDonald, Blake Miller, rounds 1 and 2. What are you thinking in round 3?
And this is where we get back to defense. This is a position or just a side of the ball that is really of need. Some guys that are standing out to me. I see Romello Height. I see LT Overton at edge, and then Torian York, linebacker from Texas A&M. And I think I'm probably going to go. It's really what's getting to me is Overton or the linebacker Torian York, and I might even just toss it to you, Jim. Do you have a preference between those two players?
So I think this is the range. I think both of those guys are around 3-4.
Yes.
The issue would be, where do you see the playing time? Because here would be an example. Like if you're drafting York, he's probably playing more snaps than a defensive lineman.
And that's true, especially with that injury I talked about. So I think that's probably a good call, right? Is take Torian York, a guy who is not the biggest, he's not the fastest, but he has incredible instincts, calls the defense for Texas A&M, and man, he arrives with violence, and that's what I want out of my linebackers.
So McDonald, Miller, York. The depth of this edge class is part of the reason that I could say go York over
True.
insert edge name here. What in this case it was Overton. It's just because there's round 4. Barham is here, Kamara is here, Rieger is here, Hutchins is here. And we could just keep going down the list. But I like this day 3 edge list. So if you need an edge, you're going to be able to get somebody that's going to get the same number of snaps as LT Overton in round 4.
Right, and that's where I'm going to go with Jayshon Barham here. Just a really interesting player, an interesting athlete in terms of what he brings. Longer guy, played even off-ball linebacker at times, both at Maryland and for Michigan, and then is now kicked down to edge. And so I think there's a lot of potential there of saying, hey, you haven't played a ton of snaps, but we can get you in here, mold you, and be a very good third down or situational type pass rusher for us.
Okay, so McDonald, Miller, York, Barham. And this is where it gets fun because now the round 5 board, like it is Pat Coogan, Max Llewellyn, who I believe were players that you've picked, are sniped before your pick. We're going to have to look around the board to find value, but is there a position? We haven't picked any DBs yet. So like Stukes and Hodge are there.
Yep, I'm looking at that and scrolling through to make sure I'm not missing any guys that I might be higher on. It looks like no. And then the only other thing that's standing out to me is Bo Stevens, just because I think he's a value type pick here, and it'd be more of a luxury, like I said, just a guy that you can swing across the interior of the offensive line and be able to
your value.
Yeah, so that's why I think I would take Bo Stevens here, where he could be a backup in the first year, but I think that's fine, right? Offensive linemen, more than almost any other position, especially, they get hurt, and you're going to need some depth there. You want to protect Caleb Williams. You saw the year 1 to year 2 jump because of the protection, and so I think investing in the offensive line there is not a bad call.
Yep. And if everybody that uses the simulator will pick with the same logic you did, this is where mock drafting is going to get difficult on this simulator later in the cycle. And people have told me this all the time. Jim, yours is the only simulator where there's no good players left in round 5, right? That kind of thing, right? And that's because if everybody is saying, well, I value that player like Bo Stevens higher than this, take him, and he's not going to be there for any other teams in round 5 then. That kind of thing.
Yep.
Okay, so Caleb Banks, Lee Hunter, Caden McDonald, all sniped before your pick at 25.
Correct.
And, like, for example, Jeremiah Love is here. He hasn't dropped before.
I know, which is so interesting. I was looking at that and going, I was going to take a tackle, but I think if the Bears were trying for pretty much all draft last year to take a running back, and guys like Travion Henderson got sniped right before him. Guys like Quinshon Judkins, same thing. Even Scadaboo, I think in the 4th round, was a guy that they were looking at. And so they were able to piece it together between DeAndre Swift playing better, Kyle Monangai being very good for a 7th round pick. But if Jeremiah Love is here at 25, I don't know how you don't take him and just juice up that offense.
You see, and this is where I say fanatic mode is going to give you some scenarios that you may, like, how often do we talk about Jeremiah Love to the Bears?
I mean, never, right? But it's so fun to say, hey, you got Ben Johnson's run scheme, you got a top 7 at least offensive line in the NFL, and then you're just going to drop that kind of prospect at the running back position in there. That's a really fun offense.
Okay, so you haven't addressed interior defensive line yet. Do you have to immediately say, is it Christian Miller, and Dominique Orange against the field? Or do you think that there might be a BPA at edge that's more important than the interior?
Well, I'm looking right now, and those were the two names that you mentioned that really stood out to me. Big Citrus is what they call Dominique Orange at Iowa State, and I love that nickname. Christian Miller, also a very good player. Both of those guys are going to be more run stoppers than pass rushers. So when I go to edge here, I'm just going to – oh, I forgot about this guy. I was wanting to talk about him in the first round, but it looks like he is slipping in here. Do you think that, without telling you the name, if it's a guy that I would take in the first round that's a little bit lower, should I save him maybe for the next round coming around?
Okay, so let's see here. So I don't think Mesidor is a round one player. So if that's who you're talking about,
That is me. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
So I think the issue with Mesidor is that he's going to be 24 when the season begins.
25, I think.
25.
Yeah.
I don't think you take a player that old with an injury history in round one.
Oh, but Jim, the tape is
I don't deny
really
the tape.
good.
I don't deny the tape, but I mean, Buffalo drafted Tremaine Edmonds in round one when he was 19. There was a reason he was not necessarily a first round caliber player, but he was 19. So it's interesting how GMs think because they're not focused on the tape. They're focused on, can I get a player who's going to be on my team for a decade? Now, I'm glad Tremaine Edmonds left Buffalo. I'm just saying.
I can tell you, like I said, that linebacker play, that would be Tremaine Edmonds is a big part of that, not being very good for the Bears, as you know all too well. I think for me,
like he would be an example, like Trotter. I don't even know if he's 20 yet.
He's definitely young for sure. Right. But I think when I look at it, for Mesidor, if he was 22, he would be a top half of the first round pick. And so I think even with him being 25 going into the season, that's built into him being a later first round pick, right? Because the tape is really good. 11 pressures versus Texas A&M in the college football playoff game. I mean, that game was unreal to watch. B+ pass rusher, B+ run defender. And do I maybe get 3 less years of him ideally? Sure. But if I'm getting 6 or 7 really good years out of a player, I think that's a justifiable 25th pick.
Okay. And so I would just say take Mesidor where you value him, because if you would take him here, slam dunk over these players, go for it.
I would definitely do that. So we're going to go ahead and take Akeem Mesidor with the caveat that I think he might be an option at 25, depending on how the board falls. Oh, here we go. Oh, there we go. It froze a little bit for me for a second there, but we're going down the board.
Okay, so we go Love and then Mesidor. We haven't addressed interior defensive line. Who do you like in round 3 for interior defensive line?
I'm hoping this guy is still here as I scroll. Dante Corleone. He is Cincinnati defensive tackle. You could tell he was wrecking guys, especially that first Nebraska game. He came into the game questionable on whether he was going to play. He played. He made such a difference. And that Cincinnati defense, it just fell apart when he wasn't there because he was so integral to what they did. Very good run stopper and very good value, I think, in round 3.
Okay. So that's Love, Mesidor, Corleone. You
what a
haven't
name
addressed
too, right?
Linebacker or DB. So is there a safety that you like in round 4?
Looking across right now, looks like most corners. BJ Payne, Wongpa at Iowa.
Do you see Stukes as a nickel or a safety?
I haven't gotten to watch Stukes yet. So if you have a bigger like profile on him than I would, I would be open to hearing.
So what round are we in? We're in round 4.
Yes.
So this feels, and we're at the end of round 4, right? Because the Bears are a playoff team.
Correct.
So,
yes.
Okay. So this is about the range that Stukes and Hodge are going to go. There's a chance that Stukes could play safety.
Right, because I'm looking, the 6'2", 200 really stood out to me in terms of that is generally more of a safety build than it is a corner build. Not that he can't play, but I'm looking right now in his last season with Arizona, he played 380 snaps in the slot, 197 in the box, and I think that is really standing out to me. I would have to watch him to get the full scouting report, but just that profile of what he's played at Arizona. Kyler Gordon, the nickel for Chicago, in and out of the lineup, a good player, but just cannot stay healthy. And so to have that versatility where he could play a little bit of nickel, he could play a little bit of safety, depending on where he needs to be, that does appeal to me a lot. So I'll go ahead and take Stooks here.
Okay. And Ian Cummings really likes Stooks. So
Okay.
he has Stooks graded a full round ahead of where we just picked it.
Hey,
So
we love some value.
yeah, shout out to Ian. So you can also tell that two of us are doing these at the same time, because when you see the simulator pause, both of us are writing to the database.
Right.
It's all good. It's all good. Okay, and now we're in round 5. And again, this is where, like, okay, so Mike, well, we already took Jeremiah Love, so we're not going to take 2 running backs.
Correct, yes.
But we've done Love, Mesidor, Corleone, Stooks. Is there an offensive lineman like Emil Wagner that you would like in round 5?
I'm scrolling a little bit here.
And I don't know that Wagner was here before.
I think you're right. I don't remember his name being here for sure.
So as you go through fanatic mode, usually about one player is going to drop each time, and you have to be able to say, can I find him?
Right, scrolling through everything.
Right, because we're replacing players that were drafted, right? So he was basically picked within 8 spots of the Bears pick.
Yeah, because I was trying to even see if I wanted to get cute and just take, a corner that has a lot of potential in Dominique Jackson, right? 5-star coming out of high school, never really put it together in college, but the potential is there and it's at a spot of need. But I think you just do the KISS method, right? Keep it simple, stupid, and just take a good tackle prospect at a position of need, as I talked about, and try and fill that hole with a 4th round pick.
And this, I believe we're in round 5 here. Yeah.
I was going to say, 5th round pick.
You like Wagner?
Yes.
Okay. Cool. So we have just we're halfway done with fanatic mode.
Woo.
Right. We've gone through 4 out of the 8. It's going to get to be difficult.
Yeah.
And I would actually say in this draft, I actually think round 2 is more difficult than round 1.
That's right. Because it seems like there's a lot of good clumped up guys in round 1 where stuff is falling to you and they're about graded the same, right? There's not a massive tier drop off, especially in the 20s, right? In the later rounds of this draft. And so I think I agree with you in that for sure.
So Banks, Hunter, McDonald, Love are all off the board before the Bears pick at 25.
So I'm looking here.
Do you like, you said that they like bigger edges. Is that Zion Young over Cassius Howell? Is it Dylan Thieneman? Is it CJ Allen?
I would sit with CJ Allen. That's at this point, as I've watched about a game of all of those guys, Allen would be my highest graded of them. And so fills a need by injury, by just overall player skill. And so he's a guy who's going to run and hit a lot. I'm not as sold about him in coverage, but really going to be good for you in the run game.
Okay, so we go CJ Allen in round 1. Miller and Orange are there in round 2. Edges would include like Malachi Lawrence, Derek Moore, Dennis Sutton, Overton, Height. What do you value at pick 57 for the Bears?
Yeah, it seems like I can circle around and get one of those edges in the next round. And so I think if I were the Bears, I would wait on that because honestly, a lot of the guys that you're talking about, I'm fine with them dropping to me. I think they might even be a little bit of a value in the 3rd round. So I'm looking at Christian Miller. I'm looking at Dominique Orange to try and fill that middle of the draft as I make sure, this was the CJ Allen one. I'm getting lost in fanatic mode a little bit. But I'm going to go Dominique Orange here. Nickname, right? Big Citrus. I feel like that raises him about 5 spots on any big board. But then just such a good player, really laterally quick for his size. You would think he's just holding down gaps, but he actually has the ability to penetrate and create negative plays as well, not just hold down double teams, but can do that too. And so a very versatile player, I think that you would be very happy to get in round 2.
Yep. And I just realized I think I fixed that. Okay. So we do Dominique Orange in that was round 2 picks.
Round
now
2,
we're round 3. So Keelan Rutledge, for example, dropped.
That jumped out at me.
He wasn't there before. Now, interior line isn't necessarily the priority in round 3, but CJ Allen, Dominique Orange, rounds 1 and 2. Um, Overton was on the short list last time.
Yeah, but man, Rutledge really is jumping out at me. I'm a big Rutledge fan, just a mauler in the run game. He played in a very fun run game. Georgia Tech, if you guys like just watching good offense, good football, good run game design, go check out Georgia Tech film. It is beautiful what they did. Their offensive coordinator is now the offensive coordinator for the University of Florida Gators. So big,
Yep.
loving that, and very, very excited to hopefully not go 4-8 again this year. So I'm gonna go Rutledge because I think I can bet on Montez Sweat, Austin Booker's development at edge for the Bears, and just not want to miss on the value here with Rutledge.
Okay. So we go Allen, Orange, Rutledge. And then you're looking at edge or DB in round. Well, we also have you've done offensive line. Okay. So we're looking at edge or DB probably.
Correct. I'm pulling everything up. I like this customizability you got here, Jim. You got a good product.
Thank you. So Kamara is there in round 4.
Let's see. I think I am, just since I hit D-line, I'm going to go Chandler Rivers here out of Duke and just try to address that corner spot that I talked about earlier.
See, I like the way you think. Right, and some of those guys are pretty close to the top of the Bears board. You're not the first one to pick them. Right? If they're at the top of the board, somebody's picked them for the Bears already, because I think Rivers at that point was the second player on the Bears board.
Yes. Now I'm scrolling across to see what we got here. And this is where I think you can, now based on the previous picks, you can get a little fun. It's not as much just pure, so I click on the wrong thing. It's not as much pure need here. Like if you had maybe a wide receiver you were really sold on, or a guy who is really high potential that you would like to sit for a little bit and see if he could turn into something. I think that is something that you could definitely do if the board falls this way. So now I'm just kind of scrolling through to see if there's any guy that I think really fits that bill. Let's see. I pull up corner because there's a guy that stood out to me, and I already mentioned him.
Was it Damani Jackson?
It was Damani Jackson. So there we go. I'm gonna go ahead and take him, and just, it's a late round dart throw with his build, with his athleticism. If you can coach him up, I think he can be a very, very good player.
And you don't get players of that athletic ability in round 5 typically.
You really don't. And so the college career was winding from USC to Alabama. Like I said, he never really put it together, but there are flashes in late rounds when it is just dart throws. It's, 10% of these guys are going to have legitimate NFL careers. I would love to bet on that potential.
Okay, so we go Banks. So we're in the 5th mock. Banks, Hunter, McDonald, Love, Allen, all sniped before the Bears are on the clock. Is Max BPA, or is there somebody else?
Yeah, Max is just going to be BPA here, get a nice athlete. Now, he did play right tackle, and so that would be something where, hey, do you think that he can slide over to left because Darnell Wright is holding down the right tackle spot for the Bears? But I mean, I guess the good thing about him not playing very long when it comes to this is he hasn't played right tackle for very long. So maybe you could coach it out of him and move him over to that side.
Okay, so we're in round 2. Your favorite round 2 players have been sniped. So that would include Gabe Akis, Austin Barber, Blake Miller, Akeem Mesidor, Dominique Orange, all sniped before the Bears pick.
Yep, and this is where you've mentioned him a couple different times, Josiah Trotter. I was actually watching Missouri play Texas A&M for Zion Young, and I was like, who is that guy? And it's Josiah Trotter. He is someone who just pops off the tape, like you said, very young player, and so fill that linebacker spot this time in round 2.
Okay, so we haven't addressed interior defensive line. Is there an interior defensive lineman that you like in round 3?
So this is where I actually love fanatic mode, right? Thank you for giving me Chris McClellan. I feel like I'm just going completely Missouri here, but I did not expect him to be available here.
There you go.
A guy he actually started at Florida before going to Missouri, but a really good player.
And ultimately what this does, like if you're watching this and you go through this either for the Bears or whichever your favorite team is, you're mock drafting against other people's boards. So it's cool that, like you said, you don't think McClellan's going to be there round 3. I think this is his range. Some people have him round 2. Some people have him day 3. So this is his range.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair because I have him about in that range of like later day 2 to early day 3 if he makes his way to, or sorry, round 2 and round 3, not day 2 and day 3. But if he makes his way to that late round 3, I think that's a perfect pick.
Okay, so Max, Trotter, McClellan. Is there an edge that you like in round 4, or is DB more important?
As I scroll through the edge names, Kamara's intriguing. He fits that bill as a bigger guy. Same with Joshua Josephs out of Tennessee. And then I'm pulling up DBs just to make sure I'm not missing anybody. Preston Hodge, he actually went to Liberty at the same time I did before transferring to Colorado. So that's a fun little name to see. I didn't know he was coming out this year.
Yeah, and this would be a really good spot for Hodge. Like, this is early day 3. This is about where like Ian Cummings and others haven't graded. So this would be a great spot for Hodge. I don't know about the other corners as I'm looking. Like, yeah, I'll wait around. Maybe Brent Austin. Devin Moore is available.
Oh, is he? I was trying to scroll and find him. Maybe if I. Oh, because he's one of those interesting guys in terms of the betting on potential as well, because he played so good when he played. He was just so hurt. Like, he just, no matter what, it was a shoulder, it was a calf, it was a knee. Like, even in spring practice and things like that, you would always get the camp report of, oh, Devin Moore is dinged up, not able, he's in a non-contact jersey again. And so you're like, oh my goodness, but just looked, again, when he was on the field, he is long, he's rangy, he's smart, he can play the ball really well. It's box after box checked if he can stay healthy. I'm trying to find though where Devin Moore is. Am I missing him?
245. He's ranked.
Oh, he's deep. Okay.
I'm on the second page of cornerbacks. He's at the top of page 2 if you fill.
Yes. Okay. 245.
Well,
maybe it's my bias.
All based upon if somebody doesn't pick him, he's going to drop. So that's not my ranking. That's user behavior.
Yeah. Well, thank you for pointing him out because, I would have just missed him being on the second page of corners. But I'll go ahead and take Devin Moore just because, I love talking about him and think this is the spot where you take that kind of bet and say, hey, we're going to send him over to the training staff and hope that he can stay healthy.
So Max, Trotter, McClellan, Moore. I mean, that's a pretty solid draft. We still have a round 5 pick.
So
what position? So, like, if we look at edge, Nadeem Tucker, Mikel Kamara are both there.
Yes, but I think it's funny because we talked about Hodge so much to start that out and then didn't take him. He's still here. And because Devin Moore is that outside guy at corner, people have even said that he could play safety. When he was a recruit, that was a decision for Florida. Are you going to play him at corner or at safety? So he can be moved around a little bit. And then I think you get Preston Hodge to lock down that nickel spot. Kyler Gordon's on the last year of his contract and, again, has been injured a lot. So I think this could even be, maybe he doesn't play a ton this year, but it's insurance in case Gordon leaves in free agency.
Okay, so you are embracing the spirit of the exercise, finding BPA. Like I said, when I turn on fanatic mode and I do podcasts like this, I like to get into rounds 4 and or 5, try to find BPA. So again, now we're going to see some different things because I know that the Bears aren't drafting Sadiq.
Yeah.
Right? But Max off the board, Allen off the board, Love, McDonald, Hunter, Banks, all off the board. Is this Monroe Freeling?
I'm looking at Freeling. There's some interesting guys if they wanted to go corner here, like Avion Terrell, Jermod McCoy. Those are some interesting names that I haven't looked at yet just because I've been going so hard into defensive line. Let's see, I'm making sure I'm not missing any tackles. Monroe Freeling, you're right, is a guy there that I would be willing to take. But I think I just have those 2 corners graded a little bit higher at this point. Jermon McCoy, phenomenal 2024 tape, just teach tape for a lot of that season. Unfortunately, had the knee injury and was not able to play. Avion Terrell, AJ Terrell's little brother. Of course, I'm sure everyone knows that by now. And really, the scouting report on him is the scouting report on AJ Terrell. As funny as that is, I know it seems like helmet scouting, but very athletic, very good zone corner, not as great in man. And so the Bears play a ton of zone. And so that's why I think for me and for the Bears specifically, I would take Avion Terrell here out of Clemson.
Love it. Okay. So we do Avion Terrell round 1. Round 2, are you looking offensive tackle or defensive line or something different?
I believe I've still got, let me make sure before I say that, because I was going to see if Christian Miller was going to fall to me. And so this is where I will finally take Christian Miller here, the defensive lineman out of Georgia, with all of the defensive linemen I've already picked being gone by this point. Do think that he can fit that run stopper mold that the Bears need. Again, 5 yards per carry. That is not sustainable for a defense. And so you want to be able to plug up that hole with a guy like Miller.
Okay, so we go Terrell, Miller. We're in round 3. Michael Taff is dropped. He was not there before.
He's interesting because a great story, former walk-on, becomes a very integral part of the Texas defense. He is very light. And so I wonder about the translation that Taff would have. And so I'm going to go a little bit. Well, let me make sure I'm not mixing up my picks here, just so I'm not doubling up on positions or anything like that. Okay, yeah, this was the Terrell Miller. And so this is where I will take LT Overton, edge out of Alabama. We've talked about it, I think, 4 or 5 times now. Bears love big edges. Overton's at about 280. Like, this is a guy who is really big, moves really well. You'd like to see him show a little bit more out of the pass rush, especially just he's not going to be guys outside. I might even want to see him drop 10 or 15 pounds and not be all the way up at that 280 to get a little quicker off the line of scrimmage, but a guy who's going to be a really, really physical presence on the defense.
Okay, so haven't addressed linebacker or offensive line or safety. Kyle Lewis did drop to round 4 in this one. He was not typically there. You can also see Kate Klubnik dropped. He hadn't been there before. So we're looking at a much different round 4 board than what we've seen before. Offensive linemen like Markel Bell is there, Drew Shelton. What are your thoughts?
Yes, the Lewis is the one that stood out immediately because at this point I have not taken a linebacker, big position of need. So I'm just scrolling through here to make sure that I'm not missing anybody on the back end. But doesn't look like it. Everett I like, but again, Avion Terrell there is going to be the round 1 pick, and they are both outside corners. Jalen Johnson's already there. Don't really want to double up. So as I scroll, I think that it's going to be Lewis. Another guy we talked about having a good showing out in the Senior Bowl, really good in coverage as well in some of those one-on-one drills. And so love to see that marrying the tape and what he put out there. So Lewis, I think, would be a great pick here. Okay.
And then this is the 7th of the 8 mocks that we're doing. We have 1 5th-round pick left. So Terrell, Miller, Overton, Lewis. Is there an offensive lineman here that you like in round 5?
Let's see as I'm scrolling through, because I am just not a big Alex Harkey fan.
Yeah, so Drew Shelton, Diego Pounds, Demetrius Crownover. Crownover would be interesting in round 5. You're getting a project tackle. But
right, because I don't love the tape, but I really like the traits. And then he showed some of that a little bit better in the Senior Bowl. And so I think you can convince yourself you're betting on something that could hit and be a real diamond in the rough. Because some of the interior guys, like I said, is especially in this specific mock when I haven't taken a tackle, it might be a little tough to justify. So trying to make sure I'm not missing any tackles that I just love more than.
So I took Crownover. You're more than welcome to take a different player in yours.
No, you are good. As I'm looking through, I'm just trying to double check to make sure I'm not missing a guy that I just really love. No, because Pounds has some good analytics, but a lot of that was the Ole Miss offense. And so I think we'll go ahead and stick with Crownover.
Okay, so this is the 8th and final. And this is where I say, again, sometimes when you do fanatic mode, you're going to be off the rails. I mean, we already took Jeremiah Love to the Bears in the earlier one. But Terrell, Max, C.J. Allen, Jeremiah Love, Caden McDonald, Lee Hunter, Caleb Banks are all sniped before the Bears pick at 25. So what do you think the Bears would do if those guys aren't available?
Man, wouldn't Kenyon Sadiq be fun? I don't think I'm going to do it, but Him and Loveland would be just
Right.
an unreal type of pairing.
So is this like Anthony Hill, Jermod McCoy, or is it Monroe Freeling?
Yeah, I think as I look, Jermod McCoy would be the highest of the grades I have. Like I'm looking at Zion Young, Colton Hood, the other Tennessee defensive back. But I think I would go with Jermod McCoy here.
Okay, so we go with McCoy in round 1. So more than likely, there's not going to be a round 2 defensive tackle for you because I think
I'm taking all of them. Yeah,
right. So, and that's again, this is the challenge of Fanatic mode. The Bears have a huge need at defensive line. None of the first round guys were there. None of the second round guys are there. So, what do you do if you've taken Jermod McCoy and you can't take any of your favorite defensive linemen on round 2?
Well, the good news is Fanatic mode blessed me with Kamari Ramsey falling here.
Yes.
And so I do, my eyes lit up when I saw that pick, a guy that really, really good tackler, like 89.7 PFF tackling grade, just doesn't miss a ton of them. And that's even with him playing the free safety. So a lot of times it's guys that are one-on-one with him are trying to make him miss and are just not able to do it. Good in coverage as well. Not quite as good as like an Emmanuel McNeil Warren or anything like that, but a solid guy in coverage to pair with that tackling. So I'm glad he fell to me there as I was looking for a defensive guy.
Okay, so round 3, is there a defensive tackle you like round 3, whether that's Harris, Keenan, or anybody further down the list?
These are a little too high for me, but Fanatic mode blessing me again with Jacob Rodriguez being available here. And he's a guy that I can already tell I think I'm going to have higher than the consensus. Really, really good player, nose for the ball. I mean, you saw all the forced fumbles that he had out of Texas Tech. Really good tackler. And then I was not impressed, but the measurements that he had in terms of weight, arm length, stuff like that was better than I thought it would be. And so, whereas I thought that might be something that holds me back on him, it was fine. And so you think you get a really good instinctual player there for the Bears.
So McCoy, Ramsey, Rodriguez. You haven't addressed defensive line in this mock at all. What day 3 defensive lineman do you like?
Oh, let's see as I pull this up. Albert Regis is interesting with Texas A&M. They seem to just grow defensive linemen on trees over there. Rayshawn Benny is another one that's interesting. Tim Keenan. Xavier Harris was a solid one. I think I'm going to go Tim Keenan here out of Alabama, the one I like out of all those options. A guy, he is that true plugging up gaps, not going to give you a ton in the pass rush, but will help out your run game for sure.
See, so this is why I designed Fanatic mode, because it got you to talk about a day 3 defensive tackle when you were just trying to grab them all on day 2 before. So it took to the 8th one, but that's the joy of doing this live on a podcast.
Yeah.
It got you to think about that. So one more pick and we're done with the 8th and final mock. You haven't done an edge in this one, and you haven't done an offensive lineman either.
Correct. And that's where I am gravitating at this point towards.
So Kamara's there round 5.
That's who I was just going to say is Mikael Kamara. Another one of those Indiana guys, just so well coached, does exactly what he needs to do, has enough athletic juice, I think, to be a fine number 3 type of pass rusher, and then will be very good in the run game as well, a little bit heavier and just a real physical type of presence. So going to take him in the 5th round there and be okay with that.
Okay. So this podcast went a little bit longer than I planned because I was going to do one more demonstration, but we're already at 70 minutes. But here would be, like, for example, like, because I know that, Tyler, you said that you do like a Colts podcast,
yes,
too, right?
Yep.
So if you go into the simulator, do a mock draft for the Colts.
Oh,
but
right.
Pay attention to who the Bears pick and do a 7-round Colts draft. Just do a single, but pay attention to who the Bears pick. And I bet a lot of the guys that you just picked here are drafted to the Bears.
Are going to be taken. Yeah.
Right.
7 rounds.
This is essentially a way that when you're using the simulator, you're now mock drafting against Tyler's board for the Bears.
Yeah. This is such an interesting draft for the Colts too, because they do not have their 1st-round pick, unfortunately. Yeah. And so as I scroll, as it loads up here, so they got to be able to find some gems for sure. when it comes
Yeah.
to this
So,
draft.
so Tyler, do you want to take a moment and let everybody know about the other podcasts and the content that you make and where all of your work is published?
For sure. So you mentioned it, the podcast through my station, and I probably should back up. I work as a multimedia journalist for WCIA3, which is a CBS affiliate in Champaign, Illinois. And so that is just normal news, right? That is doing day-to-day journalism. And then doing Midwest Mashup, which is the podcast on Roku, Apple TVs, and Amazon Fire Sticks is where you can find that, the WCIA3 Plus app. Midwest Mashup, we talk about the pro sports in Indianapolis, Chicago, and St. Louis. So for football, that includes the Bears and Colts. And so been going really hard in that. And we're actually this week doing an off-season preview. So this was very helpful for me. It's almost like prepping for the podcast this week as well. So appreciate that. And then Twitter is right there that I put on my screen. Go ahead and follow. I'm starting to get in, watching the film, breaking down the stats, and then posting all of my thoughts on this year's draft.
Yeah. So, Tyler, I want to say thank you for coming on. So, Tyler was doing 8 mock drafts.
Yeah.
By the time he got to the 8th one, none of the players he liked were there because the simulator learns who you like and it won't let you draft them. It's just the way, right? That's how I designed it. Because what I noticed is like when people did mock drafts on podcasts, everything was easy. Perfect Fanatic mode is make it harder.
Exactly. And like you said, you get to talk about different players. I mean, how many different guys did we just get to go through and give not full breakdowns, but at least the cliff notes of what kind of prospect they are. So I think this is a very good and very fun way to do it.
You talked about 40 players.
Yeah.
You talked about 40 players and it took you the better part of 40 minutes to do it.
Rapid fire.
You were on fire. So I want to thank everybody for checking out Draft Professor. If you want to record one of these for your team, find me on Twitter at NFL Draft Fanatic. No, I am Fanatic. Tag me in a tweet, send me a DM, but say, hey, Jim, I'd like to do one and tell me what team and we'll schedule it. So you're going to see a lot of these podcasts on the channel. I think tomorrow I'm doing about 6 of these. Yeah, so it's just one after another. I've got, a lot of different people lined up, but Tyler, thank you so much for your time. Thank you very much. This was a lot of fun.
Ton of fun. Thanks so much, Jim.
Yep. So for the 110 podcasters at the Draft Professor, Tyler and myself, thank you for watching, and we will see you on a podcast again tomorrow.